It's very true.
In a way. So
yeah.
maybe you could just start out with a hard matchup against Secret.
Yeah,
because they don't aim for top 6. Like that's not the level of ambition for EG. That's all the way. They want to go first.
Yeah, so if you're gonna have to face them, maybe just try facing them there, and if you win, that's done and done. Go on, maybe all the way to the final for EG. And all of this happens next week at the main event, going into the Key Arena. And as we were discussing, I mean, that the first match of the winners bracket determines whether you get 6 figures or another zero added behind, getting $1 million and a little bit extra for your pocket change. That's a big deal.
$150,000 of pocket change.
I mean, once you win $1 million, I feel like I haven't been there yet, but I'll let you guys know if I ever achieve that status. I'll let you guys know how it feels. That's really exciting. What do you expect at the Key Arena, right? We've had several TIs in the past. You guys have been there in the past, but to be there where that's actually the difference you see in the very first round of matches, that's going to be pretty exciting. Of course, nervous for the players, but absolutely crazy for the audience and for the casters who are casting those matches.
Yeah, well, it's like the atmosphere in the arena in general. I think it's going to be even crazier than last year. Supposedly, the setup this year is going to be amazing.
And all 16 teams will be there.
All 16 teams will be there.
That is also true.
And yeah, the matches just mean more. I don't think, if you're a player going into the series, I think a very healthy approach is to not think, or maybe it's inevitable, at least for some teams, that you think a lot about the money in the first matchup. If you get to the winners bracket, a team like Complexity, who wants to prove everyone wrong, at the same time, they might have had it in the back of their minds going into this that they're definitely not one of their favorites. They said they're the underdogs as well going into the tournament. They've been doing great. It's probably hard for them to put it in the back of their minds. But once you're in that top 6, I think, like when the money is so big, it's not really about the money anymore. Like you're playing for the sake of the competition and for pushing yourself as far as you can and getting the best possible result. Like, of course, it's incredible winning the whole thing, right? But it's already so much money when you're in the top 6 that's definitely the biggest step. It's basically secured your entire year, right?
That is,
if you get a top 6 placement. Then everything else, the whole year, anything that's happened doesn't really matter.
Majors.
So
you never know. I mean, that could help secure your spot for that next major to get that auto invite.
That's
very true.
And I can't help but just think the reason why everyone's just going to be so into it is, we're there to celebrate this game.
Yeah,
and see how big it's gotten. And you can see just win that first match. That was TI 1 and 2, that first best of 3 where they're playing for that $1 million.
I think the important thing is more so than for the players, for the audience, just to see that that's where we are now, and that's the gravity, but also the excitement of those matches, and that's where TI is. And TI 5, that's how just big every match is, and that's how great every team is here. But as we were chatting away, we are now in the draft for Game 1 between CDEC and EG. So again, pretty important match for EG. They want to take at least one map to make sure they stay on the top side of the upper bracket.
But what aggressive god.
It's a good
I'm surprised. I was really confident going into this that would be EG's targeted ban this team. And they didn't.
Maybe they have that ace, man. Maybe they are baiting it out so they have the answer for Gyro.
I don't know what that is.
We've talked a lot about EG preparing for CDEC, but we haven't talked too much about the opposite side, playing from CDEC, just because we're a little bit more unfamiliar with CDEC. But as always versus Evil Geniuses, I think the Naga Saturn ban is almost imperative. And if you don't have first pick, then Leshrax, a fine ban. But CDEC has first pick.
They passed on Shadow Fiend as well. Is it just something that Sumail doesn't want to really do? And Queen of Pain.
It's just they like their options open. Shadow Fiend is strong, but he's a much different flavor than a lot of the common mids. Like, remember when this time last year, EG actually ran DK a lot in the mid lane and actually just pushed very, very early, which is unusual for their strategy now, but a year ago it was super common, and they actually won games in 20-25 minutes. Times have changed, but DK is still a very viable pick, and I think Shadow Fiend somewhat limits their options, even though they do have like Shadow Fiend Omni and, Storm Spirit plus any pretty much support that PPD likes to run, but you always want to be flexible and open and see how CDEC wants to approach the game.
Okay, and as you were bringing up, Dakota, Quap does slip through again, so we'll see if that stays up as a ban or pick or gets banned.
That's what I'm super surprised about, is Quap making it through, just because EG, they highly prioritize it. They have multiple heroes that can play it, and I think it plays very well against CDEC.
Yeah, but chose the Tuscan and the Dazzle. Personally, not too surprised that they prioritized the Dazzle in that first phase, but then the Quap slipping through is still...
It seems like a pretty defensive opener from EG. It's like two heroes that have a lot of defensive capabilities. Perhaps the approach from PPD here is no matter what I ban against this team and no matter what they pick, they will be playing aggressively from their safe lane. So if we get defensive supports, maybe he doesn't snowball.
Okay.
perhaps that's the idea here. Tusk is, of course, a little bit of a hybrid. He can also be played aggressively. But a lot of the times, at least, for example, when we've seen PPD play the Tusk, which he definitely won't this game because they have the Dazzle. But
I like the fact that they don't go back to the PPT support Tusk. Again, the Frost Shards trick was cute, but it didn't win them the game, ultimately. And it wasn't enough of an impact to justify running unless it's a very specific situation or if Aoi plays it. I was looking at CDEC's reactions, and they seem very confused. Like, they're not, like, super relaxed, and they're more, like, squinting their eyes, like, what?
Why did they pass on Queen of Pain and Shadow Fiend? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, passing on both.
I definitely don't think this is the opener they expected from EG.
there's a quap for some mail if they want it now.
Yeah,
Shadow
what do
Fiend
you
was
think
painful.
about the SF ban over the Quap if you're CDEC?
Radiant minus armor with weave. Just general, I want to say, ability to, like, it's weird to say this because Queen of Pain has ridiculous team fighting potential, but Shadow Fiend is different in the sense that he matches up really well against Gyro in the mid game when he has his BKB, as we've seen.
Okay.
For example, we saw Team Secret against LGD where LGD had IO Tiny as well as a Gyro, and Shadow Fiend just pops BKB and Requiem's in the middle of the fight, and all of a sudden you're actually in a really good position. Requiem is annoying to deal with.
Right.
The Gyrocopter, he loses half his base damage for Flat Cannon.
Okay.
And
This is getting really interesting.
they actually banned Quap and pick Lina.
Right.
Maybe these teams just decided before the game Quap's not good anymore because it has a really good win rate, always wins its lane, and generally just does well in this tournament, so we don't want it.
Now,
I don't know.
do you think this is partly also just to make sure that if you pick the Quap, CDEC doesn't go to the Lina as like an auto response, and so SF is already banned.
That's a good point.
Let's just ban the Quap and take the Lina. That way, we have some sort of an advantage and also still some flexibility.
There's got to be a TA coming here for Shiki, I think.
Oh, that's a good point. We brought it up before, and we haven't talked about it now.
That's
in
the counter to the counter.
Yeah, but what if they ultra counter? Make Fear, Lina Core, and then pull out
Yeah.
a Viper or something.
Right,
don't
I mean,
know.
so the
I think
Lina's
they'll
so
fourth
flexible,
pick.
right?
I think they'll fourth pick the TA. Like, I
Okay.
wasn't expecting it here. Now, the fact that they picked Visage is a bit surprising. This gives them an incredible aggressive trialing if they want to do it, or just cements their safe lane. You can't challenge into Gyro, Shaker, Visage if that's how they lane it. That's just impossible. I can't think of a single lane that beats this off the top of my head. That is absolutely crazy as a trial. So at least they've got that. That means aggressive should be safe just from the draft here. I think if you're EG right now, you disregard the potential of challenging the Gyro, which they might have wanted to do anyway. But
Okay.
it's not happening.
I think you can definitely counter it. You have to have the magic immune carries, though. Juggernaut and Lifestealer, but in particular, come to mind. Lifestealer has been picked a couple of times. Juggernaut is underrated, I would say. But again, I'm not sure whether or not they're going to run the Lina. For some reason, I think like Slardar is going to be picked up. I don't know.
Lina's core Rubik would also be okay, I would think. It's good for stealing the bird. It's good against Earthshaker. But
Core
that
Rubik.
would add a bit of the magic, resistance. But
Those
then they
were
go
the
a bit
days.
hefty into the intel.
Those were the days. Aside from that, I mean, I think both teams already have to be like pretty wary about Roshan, just because of how these teams both, I think, heavily rely on it. And Dazzle getting Medallion, Visage getting Medallion, you can just take it very, very easily. I talked about Clinks like not being a super attractive pickup for EG, but it is very good at just single targeting, focusing down the Gyro, especially when Dazzle is on your team. However, Winter Wyvern is still in the pool, but that would also force Earthshaker into an offlane role, which
Right.
I'm not particularly sure that CDEC likes.
I still think TAs are really good.
We also know Fear plays
just a good
Clinks in a bit of a different way, not that Orchid pickup. He likes to go minus armor, Desolator, sometimes even a Medallion. Works out nicely with Dazzle, so we have that bit of synergy there, but it is pretty single target, while someone like Gyrocopter can havoc over your whole team. Just hope they're not too dependent on trying to get solo pickoffs with this Clinks or anything in that mid period.
Alternatively, they wait with their mid pickup and they get something like the Clock for offlane. If it's a support Shaker, which I do think it is. All right, that's Dark Singer
Okay.
instead. They have really good teamfight combo now. Vacuum into
Call down.
Call down, Fissure, Bird stuns if you're God tier.
I like Clinks in this particular matchup just because he's super tanky. Like, if you look at CDEC Gaming's lineup, they don't actually have any ways to kill, like, a Death Pacted hero very easily. And, like, Gyro and Earthshaker and Visage, they have, like, a lot of set magic bursts, not anything percentage-based, and he's just a very good frontliner that can absorb so that Sumail does a lot of damage. I think generally that's how they like to run things. If it's not Fear or If it's not Fear Up in front, it's General Universe. But you want Lina to be able to just eliminate Gyro and stay alive in team fights. Get your Scepter so that Gyro is completely irrelevant in all these fights, especially because they don't have any defensive supports anymore. I mean, yeah, Shaker is defensive, but once they get BKBs, Gyro is going to be under a lot of heavy fire.
Yeah.
Good, Ben.
Yeah, the TA, as you were mentioning, I mean, at this point, EG not taking those chances and saying, all right, now we're going to take advantage of the mind game we kind of put on the board, shut that out.
So what else has Shiki played that remains in the pool now? There's no Quap, which I guess Aggressive has played a lot. There's no Lina, no TA.
Oh.
Well, that's
Wow.
Okay, the secret strat.
that's a curveball.
Okay. Well,
Tusk Techies.
Our C-Deck ready.
well, I mean, yeah, it is Tustekis, just in the very front and back.
I do believe for EG, it's AUI who plays the techies, and I think, judging from how he usually plays as a player, first of all, that would put it as a farm priority Tusk. So it's a core for Universe, it's not a support possibility anymore, really.
Mid-Lina.
And AUI will probably focus a lot more on farming than you see from other teams. So it might be a little bit more of a defensive techies that aims more for the mid-game impact. Of course, they're going to use the Snowball Suicide, because why wouldn't you?
Right.
But probably going to see him maybe like there, stack the jungle, maybe use some mines there, get him his level 6 that way. And he tends to have like a different approach in general to playing supports than a lot of players do. A little more greedy as a player.
Okay, well, the game is already kicking off here between EG versus CDEC. Game 1, EG needs to secure at least one map to ensure that they are at the top of Group B. Let's find out.
All right, guys, welcome in to everybody tuning in on the live stream. We've got Evil Geniuses facing up against CDEC, probably the most hype match of the day. CDEC have been doing extraordinarily well in the group stage, probably blowing pretty much even the most fervent CDEC fanboys' wildest dreams out of the water with their performance so far. But they are facing one of their toughest opponents, Evil Geniuses, who have been a pretty standard top 3 prediction for most analysts.
Yeah, EG is... You look smart by just calling EG a top team, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's
That's
not
why
a very
I say it all the
difficult.
time.
Yeah, it's not a very difficult association to make. You say it's like saying Secret's going to be really good at this international. All right, or LGD. Like everybody thought LGD was. I think that was. I know people like to say Vici, but I'm pretty sure I heard most of the personalities.
No, way more people
say
had
LGD.
Yeah, LGD as like a 3rd place slot, and Vici Gaming was more like a 5th place slot.
So things are kind of evening out. I guess the biggest surprises for me are both CDEC and Empire. I thought Empire would do a lot better, but so far it hasn't happened. And
You and me both, buddy.
yeah,
You and me both.
but this is pretty much a game of like two titans. CDEC is a team that has so much going for them. They're a huge underdog. I mean, they're clearly proving they're not an underdog, actually.
Yeah, anymore. Like, going into this tournament, they would have been, like, if this was the first match of theirs in the group stage, they would have been, like, the biggest underdog. But as we can see, CDEC, they're just hoping to be able to get, just a tie they'd be happy with against Evil Geniuses. EG really want to be able to take this clean 2-0. We've got a Samael Lina facing up against Shiki's Bloodseeker in the middle lane. A bottom lane, we do have an aggro tri-lane of CDEC. So you've got Aggressive, Q, and Gardner. They've already brought counterwards to the lane and managed to take away
First blood mid.
AUI's. Oh, the ticks, and there it is. Samael, that last Dragon Slave, is able to pick up the kill.
Oh, man. I watched that the entire way through. And it was so weird. Sumail just kept right-clicking him, and then Shiki actually put Blood Rage on himself. He had 200 HP left, and then Sumail just right-clicked him to death.